Well, hello, everybody. It's me, Whimsy, the Oracle of Whimsy. I am just back from Israel. Yes, I am back in beautiful Portland, Oregon, enjoying my time back with my cat. Unfortunately, Mila, my kitty Mila, who is over there being her beautiful kitty self, she was not so nice to the cat sitter and she did bite the cat sitter. So I now need a new cat sitter because the cat sitter informed me that she would never again babysit Mila because Mila bites. And she does do that sometimes. She's kind of her own kitty. As many of you know, she was feral on the east side of LA when I snatched her up. And she can get a little cranky. So unfortunately, she bit the babysitter, the cat sitter, and then the cat sitter had to go to the ER and get antibiotics. It was not good. Thank God the cat sitter is a friend of mine. I'm not going to get sued or anything. At least I hope not. But so that is the situation with Mila. I now need a new cat sitter. In terms of my experiences in Israel, I think it was a good experience overall. I'm always trying to expand my empathy and put myself in the shoes of people who look at the world very differently than I do. I had an opportunity to be at Wahhabi Salam, I believe is how it's pronounced, Wahhabi Salam. Wahhabi Salam, also called Neve Shalom in English. It's in Israel, and it is a community. It's an intentional community of peace. And I would, if you do decide to go there, I would go with a group because when you're kind of there on your own, wandering around, it can get a little lonely. But this is one of the communities. It's like a kibbutz. It is private, where people are raising their children together, Palestinian and Israeli Jews, Christians, Muslims raising their children together. And it's a beautiful place to visit. The birds are very, very loud. I did a little birds parody on the experience there. But anyway, lots of things to do. They have a school. They have a lot going on. It's really good food also if you want to try the beautiful, I would highly recommend it. Unfortunately, I wasn't feeling very well, so I wasn't able to enjoy the food as much as I like. A lot of people are very concerned right now about Donald Trump meeting with Arab leadership. He met with the head of Saudi Arabia, Prince Salman. I believe he's also met with the head of Qatar. People are concerned about him meeting with Qatar because Qatar has been funneling money to Hamas, which is a terrorist organization. Hamas has also been funded by the Iranian government. So Trump is there to try and see if he cannot get the Abraham Accords up and running. Of course, the Abraham Accords would mean that they would normalize relations with Israel. But for Saudi Arabia to normalize relations with Israel, they want to see a stable Palestinian state. So one of the things I was doing was trying to get people to invest in something which is known as the Oasis One Project. The Oasis One Project, as I envisioned it, I've been working on it for quite a while as a medical anthropologist, is a place where we can create safe zones for people at the border between Gaza and Israel, possibly the West Bank and Israel, where people take an oath of nonviolence and then they share the space and then they build industry together. And it was inspired by the Marshall Plan that came out of Japan. And I'm very happy to see that we are now able to start opening up food distribution centers. The concern that many people had about the food distribution centers before was that the food was being stolen by Hamas. And we don't want to weaponize food. We want to make sure that the food gets to everywhere that it needs to get to without getting into the hands of the terrorists. So when you create these safe zones with a safe perimeter, that's what you can do. So of course, I've been trying to meet with people and see if we can't get something like this up and coming in the area so that people no longer have to suffer. What I liked about being at Wahi Salam is that I was able to talk to Palestinians about how they felt, to put myself in their shoes. And they, of course, are putting themselves in Jewish people's shoes. Jewish people are going back to their indigenous homelands. You know, they feel that they are the first persons, indigenous peoples of Judea. But then you also have people that have been living there. Either they converted to Islam, converted to Christianity from Judaism. They may have been Jewish originally. Many Palestinians do have Jewish ancestry. And some of them are Bedouins. We have quite a few Bedouins that are living in places like the Negev, etc. We have Druze, Christians. It's really a multi-cultural experience when you go to Israel. The big concern I have for Israel is that everybody is living in their own enclave. Everybody's living in their own world. And we don't see a lot of unity or a desire for everybody to strengthen the state. We have the ultra-Orthodox, which don't want to serve the state. And then we have the extreme right, which doesn't want to recognize Palestinian identity, etc. So everybody, I see just everybody doing their own thing, and we don't see a lot of unity. And it would be nice if we could just kind of acknowledge everybody's pain and work together. And I hope that that is what we're going to be doing in the coming days. I hope that President Trump's meeting with Arab nations will be good for everybody, so that the violence will stop and everybody can live the good life. All right, so I decided that I would do some blitzes. I want to just check about what's going on in the world. I want to find out what's going on with Donald Trump and what he's planning with Qatar. He was given something like a $200 to $400 million gift of a palace in the sky. That's concerning because Qatar has been funding terrorism. He also wants to recognize the new head of Syria, who has ties to ISIS and is a Muslim extremist, excuse me. So that's concerning. On the Egyptian side, we're concerned that El-Sisi continues to not open the gate in North Sinai, trapping people in the area. Let's go ahead. We'll do the Empath prayer. And let's see what we can find. And we'll try to get to everybody's blitzes along the way. It's good to be home, good to be safe. I ate too much hummus. I had hummus like 6 times when I was there. It was too much hummus. Overall rating, I think the hummus from Eliyahu. Gotta have the pickle. Gotta have the pickle. Abu Hassan does not give you pickle. Okay, I'm particular here. I gotta have my thing. Now, my criticism of Eliyahu is they didn't give me the olives. I can live without them, but I like olives, pickle, onion, a little bit of hot pepper. You know, I like the whole Megillah with my hummus. So those are my reviews. All right, let's bring it in. Let's do the Empath prayer, and then we will blitz away. I'm going to get to as many questions as people have. Let's do it. Great to be home. Great to be safe. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together collectively, we say, Amen. You know, one of the things that I learned from going to Israel again, I am an Israeli American. We all tell ourselves stories, and we can only judge the world from our own experiences. You know, I grew up a nice Jewish girl going to Jewish camp, Zionist camp every year. And for me, Zionism was a positive experience where we sang democratic socialist songs and we talked about the workers. And it was this really positive experience of we're all working together to build this great land. And so that was my psychological introduction as a Reformed Jewish girl in my Zionist leftist growing up. And then Israel became increasingly conservative under Netanyahu. So what I liked about being in Wadi Salam and talking to Palestinians who had been displaced, their family had lost homes in Haifa and Jaffa during the war. You know, people fled during the war just to get out of the way because Israel was invaded by a lot of different Arab countries. And so people just fled. And unfortunately, once they fled, they couldn't come back because Israel became frightened that they were going to bring back in people that were going to terrorize and kill them, etc. But I really kind of blame Britain because Britain's always stirred the pot to try and get people to fight back and forth. And if you were a good person like the Christians of Nazareth, who they weren't even in the middle of this, it's like, this isn't our fight, you know, we're not in the middle of this, and yet they still wound up losing their homes and stuff. So that really was an interesting conversation to just hear, like, but this is our house for 100 years, and we didn't tell the Egyptians to invade. We didn't tell Syria or Jordan to drive us into the sea. So innocent people just wound up caught in the middle of this war and they got displaced. So that was interesting. Other thing that's been interesting is how we all lie to ourselves. We all want to believe we're good people. I see this a lot with the Americans. Of all the people that give me feedback, I think the most dramatic is the Americans. Often they're living on occupied lands, stolen land from the first persons of the Americas. In fact, everybody in America is living on stolen lands from the first persons of the Americas. And most of those Americans don't know the name of the tribe whose land they're currently stealing. Most Americans have never visited a reservation. And when they do visit a reservation, it's usually just to get cheap fireworks or cheap cigarettes. There hasn't really been an effort in the United States to take responsibility and to move towards integration and reconciliation with over 500 indigenous tribes, including the Native Islanders from Hawaii who have been displaced and lost their homes, etc. And so there's often this projection that when the indigenous people returned back to the homeland of Israel, which they had been indigenous for 3,500 years, that we weren't the same Jews. But that's not really how a tribal mind works. You know, if you ever saw Dances with Wolves, that's really not how it works. Being a member of a tribe is not a eugenic experience. It's not about whether or not you are a mixed or a half-breed or anything silly like that. These were ideas that were fostered by the Victorians, that they were going to do genetic experiments to rid the world of first persons. But to be a member of a tribe is a spiritual thing that's beyond genetics. If you decide that you want to join the Jewish tribe, for example, you can do that through the conversion process. The same is true if you want to be a member of the Dakota Sioux Indians, of the Dakotas, that you can be adopted and take on the soul of a Dakota Sioux or a Nez Perce, the Pacific Northwest, or the Natchez, or the Comanche, or the Apache. All of these are tribes, and there's a spiritual relationship to being a tribe, to being part of a collective that overrides something like genetics. And so, in that sense, things get to be complicated. Certainly, there are genetics. I mean, I've had my genetics tested, and they go back to the Jews of Spain, 1399. So definitely, we can prove the connection, but it's not just a genetic thing when you're a member of a tribe. It's something much deeper that I think overrides that. Regardless of whether we find ourselves, in indigenous lands in the United States where Americans are not integrating, or in Israel where we have, and Palestine where we have these challenges. But the idea is that we begin to heal when we recognize and let somebody speak their truth. If you invalidate somebody, that's not the beginning of peace. And what I see a lot with right-wing Israelis is they don't even want to validate the experiences of these people who wound up pulled into this war, some of whom really were not at war with anybody. They just had to flee the area because of war. So I think what I would just say in summary from my experience, and as somebody who believes in Zionism 2.0, which is a new kind of Zionism, which is inclusive of everybody, we have to listen to people, and we have to listen to their stories, and I think that this is how we grow and we become more compassionate. Of course, I don't advocate violence as the solution to anything, but yeah, that was my experience. All right. A lot of people criticized me for going to Israel. A lot of people were confused and thought that I must, if I'm an Israeli, I support Netanyahu. Most Israelis don't support Netanyahu. Most Israelis are pretty liberal and progressive. They just want to get their hostages back. The other thing I noticed was that a lot of people didn't want to look at the hostage film footage because it was heartbreaking, because they got upset, because they didn't want to see the images. And because they didn't want to see the images, they were editing out really vital information that would have helped them make a more informed decision about what happened in Israel and what happened at the Nova Party massacre, and who Hamas is, and how, how much evidence there was that Hamas engaged in brutality. We have to acknowledge that. And one of the things that I also noticed when I was speaking with Palestinians is that they refused to believe that October 7th happened, that rape had happened, that Jewish women had been raped. That rape has always been used as an act of war. And again, if we don't begin to acknowledge each other's stories, I don't think we can get to peace. All right, I want to know what Trump is up to. Let's start with his meeting with Qatar. Just going to do a 12 Celtic cross with 2 bases, and we'll see what we get. Excited to be here. If you haven't had a chance to like and subscribe, I would totally appreciate it. And thank you everyone who donated to help cover the trip for my work in Oasis One. It was greatly appreciated, the donations. Okay, where Trump is at right now. Here is Trump, and I'm seeing a health challenge here. This is Archangel Raphael. It's a lot to travel. When we travel, it can really take a lot out of us. So He needs to stay hydrated. He cannot keep eating junk food when you're traveling, sir. You got to take better care of yourself. So we see that he could be having a potential challenge with his health. Of course, that base card coming in, he is the King of Swords, an air sign male. And watch your health. Excuse me, watch your health. Make sure that you're staying hydrated. Make sure you're eating right. Flying can be really rough. Where he's at right now, the first house for him is things are ending or things are changing for Trump. So it could be that they're just ending one cycle and beginning another. Ooh, business. Things are ending and we're now entering into a time of business. You can see the Queen of Pentacles, business, and then endings. Interesting. He is really strengthening his relationships, business with the Gulf nations. That's interesting. What is above him? Scholarship. So there are academics and intellectuals that are looking at strengthening these business ties between the United States and the Middle East. I had a wonderful time. I had to fly to Dubai, and I have to say that you are treated like gold when you go to Dubai. It is really Abraham's tent for the tourist. I don't know what's going on politically. The guy evidently had problems with his relationships, with his family. I don't know anything about that, but with Prince Zayed and all the others. But what I can say is that if you really want to experience the friendliness of Abraham's tent, a visit Dubai, I mean, I stayed at the Dusit Thani Hotel. I would recommend it. They gave me the executive suite because they could. And it was the most beautiful room I had ever stayed in my entire life. So boy, they really know how to treat you right. Oh my goodness. But anyway, you've got these scholarships coming in for Trump, and then what he's sitting in is addictions. So, if you're talking about health and addiction, codependency, number of problems. One, he could be trapped by business connections because this can be a codependent relationship. It can also be a cult, but he's stuck. There's a feeling here that he's stuck, and he's stuck possibly due to business. And also he could be stuck due to his health. So we have devil is to be trapped or to be chained. It could be a codependency relationship. It can be an addiction. And we have these scholarships also, which is kind of interesting. Scholars coming in to try and help with this situation. Sobriety. Yes. Look, it could be junk food. It could be, as we get older, we tend to take more medications. This is just something that happens. You should have seen me when I got on the plane. I was not going to get sick on the plane. I literally took everything: anti-nausea, ginger, Advil. You must take a neck pillow if you get sick on planes to stabilize your neck so it doesn't stimulate the vomiting reflex. I had the ear things in my ear, and you know what? I came home and I wasn't sick. It works. Point is that as we get older, we tend to become more dependent on medications. Getting to homeostasis is much more difficult. We can see this juxtaposition of temperance and sobriety being an issue, and his health. He could be addicted to McDonald's. I got to try McDonald's in Dubai because I just wanted something simple, and I wanted to see if the burgers are better. Supposedly the burgers are better in Dubai. They use fresh halal meat. You know what? The burgers were better, healthier, better, tastier. Sorry, but they are. A new contract is coming in for Donald Trump, and it's one based on scholarship and intellect. It could be that people like Witkoff and people like Miller and Kushner are working to solidify because they're going to make money and it's going to be prosperous, the Abraham Accords, but it also could be bringing peace and new trade routes to the Middle East in ways that are really productive. Where he's at right now, he is someone who always presents as the Two of Swords, which is stubborn and refusing to change his ways. And his opposition has power. So the concern is that he's being manipulated or he's being played by people who have more power than he does. Heartbreak could be that he's having issues with his heart, could be that he's concerned about heart health. There are these health concerns coming up for him. You know, he's 80 years old. You know, we can't be young forever. And then the final outcome for him is Ace of Wands. In the next 30 days, we're going to see real progress, probably. They're working very hard, I know, to try and get the hostages released. We can't really do a rebuild as long as Hamas is there, as long as there are people in tunnels, trapped, etc. So, but this is very good. And Ace of Wands would indicate power coming in, entrepreneurship, and something positive coming his way. He grieves that which he cannot let go of. His own stubbornness, his refusal to work with people because maybe they hurt his feelings or because he refuses to change certain aspects of his life, is a source of heartbreak and unhappiness for him. His opposition continues to be very strong and very powerful. People that are working against him, maybe the Democrats are gaining in strength. For example, Ace of Swords is victory within 1 year, and Magician is a power card. It could be that he is losing power even amongst his base. If, for example, evangelical Christians feel that Trump is moving away from them and their commitment to Israel, they could see that as a betrayal of their values. But we can see his opposition is gaining strength. His hope and fear is the higher ethos, could be fear of the church, fear of the Constitution, or some kind of higher ethos. And then he has strong partnerships coming in over the issue of business within the next 2 months. Will it be good for Israel? We know that it looks like he's being played. You know, Qatar also supposedly bribed, excuse me, bribed Netanyahu. So Qatar knows how to charm, wheel, and deal and bribe people. Let's see about the future of Israel in the coming months and the hostage deal and whether or not we are going to finally get things stable in Gaza. They're talking about 4 zones, like oasis zones or safe zones where they can feed people. Let's take a look at what's going to be happening in Gaza in the next couple months. We pray for peace. And let us share so that everybody is happy and everybody can have the good life. Let us put away violence, terrorism, and extremism on both sides. And only Palestinians in the kitchen, because let's face facts, they're better cooks than we are. We will never be able to make hummus like that. I'm sorry. So good. Smoother waters lay ahead, 6 of Swords, and great growth. So Gaza is going to be fine. Gaza will heal. It will bloom again. Gaza will bloom again. I believe. I have perfect faith in the creation of a peaceful Gaza. I think that it's going to happen. You got this good energy moving in, or what we say is let Gaza bloom again. It is an aquifer, right? It is an aquifer. Children should not be dying from a lack of water in an aquifer or contaminated water, right? That's what's killing most children globally is contaminated water. We always want to heal those issues. But we can see 6 of Swords. We can see Swords symbolizes years. Many years lay ahead of smooth waters for Gaza, and we see things happening very rapidly. 8 of Wands is a rapid card. It has to do with things happening very, very quickly. A new beginning, that tent, the tent of Abraham with the 4 corners. There it is right there. The tent of Abraham is going to be erected. We can see armistice, 4 of Wands, and the building of something new. The crossing card for Gaza, extremely fertile land, extremely fertile future for Gaza. Very auspicious as well, because the Empress would indicate that we can maximize the environment in Gaza, maximize how much fertility and growth and healing. This is a piece of land that doesn't need to be held in and fighting. We need to exile the bad people, right? They must be lured out so that the good people of Gaza, the people that want peace and just want to live their lives, can have their home back, without this crazy, right? So the Empress would indicate fertility and abundance. And then we have 10 of Wands, a heavy load lay ahead and people moving. So what I believe Trump is going to do is he's going to get a guarantee from some of those Arab states to take in Hamas, to take in Gazans who don't want to live there and they don't want to be in a war zone. And unfortunately, there's nowhere for them to live. Gaza has been totaled, and they're probably going to drop a bomb and destroy all the tunnels. And so people can't be there when that happens. The question is, who gets to return back? Is this going to be another situation like the Nakba, where people want, the war ends, can we get back to our house? No, you're going to be in exile forever. It's possible that they will never go back to Gaza. Something like 50% of Gazans want to leave, and they're okay with never going back because they just can't live like this anymore, which is a shame. The main thing is that people want Hamas and the Iranian influence out so that local leaders of Gaza can run their own country. And so 10 of Wands would indicate that people are going to be going out, and there could be some problems with that. People may not want to leave, and there could be some issues with that. But I see that the deal that Trump is making will ensure more civilians and more people get out during the process of clearing the area. And I think that smoother waters lay ahead. There is this sanity coming in where people now understand that we have to work together to heal the situation. Judgment is sound in the coming days. The opposition is new building, new contracts. People want to get in on the rebuild. The hopes and fears is the businessman. The fact that this is a business situation. The weapons of wars will be taken away from the enemies of the good people of Gaza. So it's a non-negotiable. Hamas has to go. Six of Cups coming back to the garden is auspicious. It means that during the rebuild, the good Gazans, the people that want peace, will be able to come back and be part of the rebuild. I think it's very important that the people of Gaza who want to stay and who are not hurting anybody be allowed to stay and be part of the rebuild. And that appears to be what's happening with the Lovers card over Three of Pentacles, also very auspicious, because Three of Pentacles is real estate and new building. Lovers, we're seeing this cooperation happening with the Gulf states. Hopes and fears, the strong energy of my space, which is the Queen of Wands. And then the final outcome, we see armistice happening in Gaza. Gaza will be rebuilt. Gaza will be rebuilt, and it will be rebuilt as a place similar to Japan. When we talk about the Marshall Plan for Japan, we use that as an example. I was asked to build something when I wrote this Marshall Plan and gave it to the Abraham Accords. I was asked, can you do something like the Marshall Plan for Japan? Because people thought it was naive that we were never going to get to peace with Japan. They dropped 2 atomic bombs, and yet Japan is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful country, one of my favorite places in the world to visit. I've gone many times now. I've brought friends. Because when you bring cooperation and jobs to an area, when you clear the extremist, and most people, I would say, just want to live their lives. And so we will see the Marshall Plan. We will see the Marshall Plan. I wanted to also point out that we've talked about the fact that it's not going to be easy, but it will still happen. And part of that means that we will see a commitment on the part of the people to ensure that it happens. So yeah, Three of Cups is quite auspicious. It means armistice is coming in, and armistice would indicate that we will be seeing peace in Gaza and a willingness to help people get out while the rebuild is happening. It's very exciting. It's very, very exciting to see what Gaza can be. It's very, very exciting to see what Israel and Palestinian leadership can create when we decide that we're going to start listening to each other and getting violence is not the direction we need to be going in. And I think that we're going to get what we want. All right, so I was asked to take a look at some of the people in the Trump administration, what's going to be happening with their future. So we're going to do some quick blitzes here. We're going to look at Stephen Miller's future first. His first is he has a very strong career future. Six of Swords would indicate that he's making good deals. His opposition gets his wish. So he's getting what he wants as a writer. But his time in the Trump administration is coming to an end. He will move on. The fact that the final outcome is a Four of Pentacles tells me that he is going to be okay. The opposition worked to get him gone because they get their wish. Also, Ace of Cups. It's talking about him moving on. He's also got some health challenges coming up, I believe. Did he have health challenges in the past? But he will, something about him not being part of the administration in the future, possibly, and that he's moving on. His opposition got his wish by getting him to leave. There's a little bit of a health challenge there. All right, let's take a look at Kushner next. Also, Kushner had thyroid cancer, also had some health challenges. And let's take a look and see what's going on with Kushner. Things are moving very quickly for Kushner. His opposition is at war with him. Ace of Wands would indicate going after him. Seven of Wands, he's having to defend his territory. And his final outcome is he could lose support. Five of Pentacles is a poverty card. It could indicate that he could be on having issues with certain people. Could be Israel's a little upset because of what's going on with Qatar and Qatar Gate, their past history of bribing people. There's fighting and tension in the future for Kushner, and people are worried perhaps about what side he's taken on. Him and Miller both could be facing problems with evangelical Christians and Israelis that are more right-wing, that are not happy with what's going on. All right, next thing I want to look at has to do with what is going on in Ukraine. I know that back and forth, is there going to be a ceasefire? Is there not? I just want to take a look at Zelensky first. Zelensky. Smoother waters lay ahead for Zelensky. That's quite auspicious. What's going on with his opposition? They're living in a dream world. They can't end the war because if they end the war and retreat in Russia, then everything was for nothing. Increasing chance that they're going to remove Putin. We've talked about that, and we've talked about the fact that the data would suggest that the best thing to do would be to remove Putin because you can't stabilize Europe as long as Putin's in office. Queen of Cups lives in a dream world, the hopes and fears that mastery will come to the area. And the final outcome for Zelensky is he feels increasingly tied up. He feels messed over by the Trump administration. Nine of Wands is to feel like you're in jail. He's going to be okay long term with the Six of Swords, but he's dealing with a lot of, his situation is changing, a lot of opposition. the strength of his opposition. He's going to be able to have a safe Ukraine. The majority of people want Russia out of Ukraine. His final outcome is the 10 of Cups. But it's been very sad. It's been very sad to see how the Trump administration has been treating Ukraine. The truth of the matter is we should have gotten more involved so that the war had not gone on as long as it did. And perhaps if we had done that, we would have seen Russia leaving sooner. But the fact that 10 of Cups is the final outcome for Zelensky is auspicious. I think it's quite auspicious. All right, so now I want to just quickly take a look at Joe Biden. People said that he seemed like he had, his health had not been good. You know, is he going to get back politically to speaking, etc.? What's going on with Joe Biden? Temperance. He's a very balanced person. You know, his wife takes good care of him. So this is somebody who lives in a balanced state. His opposition, 3 of Pentacles, is building new things. Confusion, or 7 of Cups. People are worried about his mental clarity. You know, 7 of Cups. And his final outcome is Magician. So he has good days and bad days, but Magician would be overall good. The truth of the matter is this does not look to me like Alzheimer's. This looks more like physical exhaustion, and that what may have happened, I know that he had COVID. You can get COVID and test negative if you have a low viral load, and that during the debate, he was coming down with COVID. As soon after it, he had to be hospitalized for COVID. And his brain was, you know, the virus takes, I've had COVID. It takes over your brain, and you simply cannot think, combined with being older when your immune system is compromised. So it just looks like a lot of what happened to Joe Biden was more just physical exhaustion and being older than actual Alzheimer's. But there was a concern that his brain was like out of it, because you have this 7 of Cups. But a Magician as an outcome would indicate that with rest and healing, he's probably going to be like, oh, I'm fine now. More fish oil, more rest, more meditation, and this person could see improvement in his brain health. 9 of Pentacles also is auspicious. It would be a confidence card. So I just think he got exhausted. I think he got sick. I think he was overworked. And I think that he's writing his memoirs also. You can see this 8 of Pentacles moving in 82. I'm getting 82. There's going to be a publishing of a memoirs, but his brain is actually getting better, and he's getting sharper and healthier with that Magician and that Mastery card. And that, no, I would not call this Alzheimer's, because this is showing a recovery. This was physical exhaustion. He is older, and probably COVID. And probably he was overworked and got sick, and that's what happened. And then as he rests and recovers and improves his diet, takes less meetings, he will start to feel better, and his cognition will improve. And I see him writing his biography. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop this here. I've been going for about 43 minutes. I am back at work starting tomorrow. Yay! If anyone would love to see me for a reading. The next time I do a reading, I'll try and focus more on economics, both in the United States and globally. I know people are very concerned, but actually I see a lot of exciting, cool jobs opening up in June. So it'll be interesting to do an economics reading the next time we speak together. All right, everyone. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, and take care. Bye, everyone.